Alright, this is the video to help you with law of sines. Law of sines is a rule that you can use not only for right triangles, but it works for any triangle. So you don't just have to have a right triangle like we did with sine, cosine, and tangent. So you can use this on any triangle using this rule. The only times you can use it though is when you know certain parts. And those parts are, for this one it's two sides and an angle opposite one of those sides. So if we know these two sides, and then you gotta know an angle that's directly across or opposite one of those sides, which we do in this case, which is the 36-degree angle there. So we could use law of sines to find this angle, or this side over here. We could find any of those parts using the law of sines. And the other thing that you could use it, or the other time you could use it, is when you have two angles and a side opposite one of those angles. So here we have these two angles, and we know the side that's directly across from one of those angles. Then we can use the law of sines to find this side, and we wouldn't even have, for this angle right here, we could find it because the three angles of a triangle have to add up to 180. So sometimes, even if you knew this side right here, and you knew that these two angles, you could still find this angle and still use the law of sines to find another missing part of the triangle. All right, this is the law of sines. And all you're doing is setting up a proportion. You're never ever going to set up all three of these parts together. All right, you're going to set up any two of them. So it might be just these two together, or it could be these two together. But you're just setting up a proportion, setting up those two. Always remember, we talked about this, when you're labeling a triangle, if you got big A here, then the side across from that, we're always going to label as little a. Big B here, the side across from that is always going to be little b. Same thing for big C, side across little c. And it doesn't have to be A, B, and C. It could be any triangle. You could have Q, T, M. Well, then this side over here is going to be little q. That should be a capital T there. That side over there is going to be little t. And this side over here is going to be little m. So the side, you got big letters, uppercase letters for the angles. And you got lowercase letters to label the sides, and that'll help you so everything's always in that form. All right, we're going to do a couple of examples here, and I'm going to try to go through and tell you how to punch it into your calculator. So just follow along, and you're going to set up the equation, set up the proportion. Then we'll just go through how to punch it into your calculator and do it. You'll use your calculators more on the next thing that we go over rather than law of sines. You'll use your calculator a bunch, but the next stuff that we go over, calculator will be very, very important. All right, so for this, they tell us the measure of angle C is 45, so we need to write that in there. 45 degrees there in that angle. Measure of angle B is 74 degrees, so write that in there. And little c, which has to be across from big C, is 30. And this time we're wanting to find little b, which is going to be across from big B, so that's right there. So we put in little b right there. And all you're going to do is set up a proportion. Do the sine, and I'll do the sine of C first. Sine of C, which is 45 degrees. over little c, which is 30, right there. And then you do the sine of big B, which is 74 degrees, and then over little b. So you just have that proportion. And that's all you're going to set up every time. Then you grab your calculator, and you just figure out what these two top things are on each one. What the sine of 45 is and what the sine of 74 is. Just punch it into your calculator, you hit sine. Remember, if you have one of the older calculators, you have to put in the number first, then hit sine. On the newer ones, you hit sine, then the angle, close the parenthesis. And you should get, for 45, you should get, and remember, we'll go out 4 places, 7071. That's still over 30. And on the other side, you hit sine, 74, close the parenthesis, hit equals, and you get 0.9613. You round it up. Now you have a proportion, and all you're going to do is cross multiply. So here we get, I'm going to write it down below here, we get 7071 times b equals, you multiply the means, remember these two are called the extremes, second two are called the means. Grab your calculator and you just hit 30 times 0.9613, hit enter, you come up with 28.839, and you could round that off, but we might as well leave it there. It's already on your calculator, and all you got to do next, you're going to divide by 7071. This right here is already on your calculator, so all you really have to do is on your calculator hit divided by 7071. So hit divided by 0.7071, hit enter, and now we will round it off. We're coming up with little b, so we're coming up with a side. We normally go out to the nearest 10th. I can't remember for sure what the worksheet tells you to do, but that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go out to the nearest 10th. It comes out to be 40.8, about 40.8. So this side right here is about 40.8 units long. So all you're doing is setting up this proportion every time. If you're looking for a side, it's not very difficult. If you're looking for an angle, which we're going to do next, a little more, it's not really more difficult, just a little more involved. All right, so on this one, we're trying to find an angle. We know that little e is going to be across from big E. So little e is right there. That's 24. We know that little d, which is across from big D, is right there. That's 28. So we fill those in. Angle E, the measure of angle E, is 58 degrees. So that's this angle right here. It's 58 degrees. And we're looking for angle D right there. Again, you're going to set up your proportion. This time I'm going to take E first. I'm going to do the sine of big E, which is 58 degrees, over little e, which is 24. This time we're looking for angle D, so we're just going to write sine of angle D on top. That's our variable this time. That's what we don't know. Over little d, which is 28. Now you're sort of going to do the same thing this time. You're going to find the sine of 58. So take your calculator and hit sine of 58, and that comes out to be 0.8480. And we got the sine of D up here. Oops. Over 28. Now here's where it's a little different. When we cross multiply, this cross multiplying is all right. You just hit 0.8480 times 28, and you come up with 23.744. Now when you do the other cross multiplying going this way, we can't really multiply the 24 times the sine of D, so all we do is we write down 24 times sine of D. And to get sine of D, that's like our variable. To get it by itself, you're just going to divide both sides by the 24. So on your calculator, you take this 23.744 and divide it by 24, and you come up with something like 0.9893 equals the sine of D. These 24s over here cancel each other out, and you're left with just that right there. Now what you're going to tell your calculator to do is that you want to find angle D. You know what the sine is, that's right here, but you want to find what the angle is. So here's where you have to, remember when you're looking for an angle, you have to hit second. So hit second, then sine, and those of you again who have the old calculator, remember you got to put in the number first, then hit second sine. So you hit second and sine, and it should pop up on your calculator like this again, sine -1. And then you just punch in this number right here, 0.9893, close the parenthesis, hit enter, and it comes up to be about 81.6 degrees. Again, I can't remember what the worksheet says, but that tells us the measure of angle D. We'll just round it off and say it's about 82 degrees. So that angle right here is about 82 degrees. So it's not really harder to find an angle, but you got to remember that you are looking for an angle, so when you get down there at the end, you got to hit second on your calculator and punch it in. Hopefully that'll help you. You can do that short worksheet. We will be going over some of it, so don't get too concerned, just try.